Hi, in this video, we will talk about three things. First, we will show you how to connect your PSOC to MATLAB using UART. Then, we will show you how to set up your own free online database. Finally, we will use MATLAB to design a graphical user interface to acquire data as well as analyze data. We will also use the MATLAB graphical user interface to connect to your online database and do data transfer. The module that you will need is the UART module. You can find the UART module from the right side panel and then drag it to the top design page. One thing to keep in mind is that in the UART module, you need to keep the bits per second, or baud rate as we call it, constant across the whole project. Here is a simple code to show you how to connect PSOC to MATLAB. The function that you will need to use is serial port. The first parameter that you will need to input to the serial port is the COM number that your PSOC is connected to your laptop to. The COM number varies from time to time, and you can check by going to the bottom left side and then right-click on Start, and then go to the Device Manager. You can scroll down and then check here for ports. The name that you are looking for is kitproc USB-UART. The number behind this name is a number that you will be setting here to the function of serial port. Then you will need to set the baud rate to the same number as the one in your PSOC creator. Here I wrote a code to plot the data as I get it in real time. So when I run the code, it goes like this. This is the strain gauge data, by the way. So if I go and apply some force on the strain gauge, you can see that it is changing in real time. So it goes up and down. You can do anything you want with the data. So here, we will show you how to create and set up your own free online database. The keyword that you will need to search for is free SQL database. You just need to go to the first result that comes out, go to the bottom, and click sign up under the MySQL free option. After this, you have to input your email, and then you will get a confirmation email. After that, you will need to set your password. Then finally, you will be redirected to a page that looks like this. You need to save your location and then create a database here. In my case, I have already created a database, but in case that you have not, just click Create Database. That should appear here. For the free version, this website only allows you to create one database. So just use it sparingly. But you can have many tables in the database, so it wouldn't matter that much. After you have created your database, click follow this link for PHP My Admin. And then you will arrive to a page that looks like this. Now, by the time you are at this page, you should have already received an email that gives you the credentials that you will need to log in. So first you need to copy the server name and then paste it here. Is that server? And then copy and paste your password in the corresponding section. And then confirm that you are not a robot. And then click Go. So after that, you will be redirected to this page. Here you can set up your tables, edit your database, as well as get important information about your database. So here, let me see what tables I have already put here. Okay, I have 3 tables. And before this video, I have done some testing. And as you can see, I have strain gauge readings stored here. You can access your data here. You can export or import data by directly clicking these buttons. But we are not going to do this. We are going to import and export data via MATLAB. To connect MATLAB to your database, you will require a driver for your MySQL. So the keyword to Google is MySQL connector download. The first result that comes out will give you what you need. Here you need to go to JDBC driver for MySQL, go to download, and then select your operating system. You just need to download the installer and then install. Afterwards, go to your MATLAB. Here you need to configure your MATLAB to acquire the JDBC driver. You need to set the location as well as set the server name. So to do this, you need to use the function configure JDBC data source. So here, the name is the same as the email that you received here, which says the database name. So here, just copy this. Go back to the pop-up window and then just paste it here. Here, you have to select MySQL. So because I have already selected my driver previously, this automatically pops up. But in your case, you will probably need to go to wherever you installed your MySQL driver. So sometimes, most of the time, if you are using Windows, it would appear here in the program files x86. And then you can just go and find MySQL, go to connector J, and then simply select this thing. All right. And then here, if you are running this for the first time, you will also need to paste the server name here, which should be the same as the host name here. After that, just save. For me, I don't need to override this database. For you, you will have to click yes, and then close this pop-up window. You will also need to install the database toolbox from MATLAB. To find the toolbox, go to Apps, click on Get More Apps. And then just search for database. Install this database toolbox, and you are ready to use the function database as well as SQL. Here is a simple demo of how to connect your MATLAB to the database that you just created. All you need to do is to put your username and password here. The username and data source should have the same name. Here, for example, if I run this code, I will use SQL read to read the strain gauge readings table from the database, which is called con here, so defined. So after I have run it, I will have acquired a variable here called tab, and it is a table that gives me some strain gauge readings that I recorded previously. In the same way, if you want to write data to the database instead of reading from it, all you need to do is use a set of code that looks like this. Set your table name. Okay, now let me just call this table newer because I've run 2 tests before. And then use SQL write to the database. The database is the same, which is con here. Table name is the name that you will give to the table, which is technically a huge array. Results is the data that I got from the demo just now, where I acquired data from the strain gauge live, and then we plotted it live, and then it is still recorded here as a row. So as I run this code, if it works, I should see a new table in the database called newer strain gauge readings. This will take a little bit of time. Okay, so now I can go to my database and just hit refresh. Let's see if a new table shows up. Okay, let's expand. Right, so we have a new table called newer strain gauge readings. And in this way, you guys can share data between groups simply by getting connected to the same database. In the final part of this video, you will learn to create a graphical user interface using MATLAB. Currently, MATLAB has a really handy application called App Designer. You can search for it here, or you can type App Designer in the command window. When you run it, the App Designer will pop up. So here I'm just going to click on blank application to give you a small demo of what can be done here. So here on the left side is a selection of components that you can drag and drop to your design. This is pretty much like LabVIEW, where you can drag your components here, and then you can set the parameters and design it on the right side. So for example, if I want to change the title of this plot, let's say strain gauge plot. And for the X label, I'll just call it data point. For the Y label, I will call it strain. Cool. So let me make it a little bit nicer. And I also want to have a button. In certain components, like the button, you can create callback functions where you will be able to interact with this component. In this case, my button. So what do I want my button to do when I click it? I want it to tell the plot to start plotting the strain gauge values in real time. So all I need to do is to click add button pushed function. And then you will be redirected to a set of codes. Notice on the top right side, you have 2 views, code view and design view. So if you come to code view, you will be able to add callback functions and edit the callback function as you need it. Because we already have coded something before here to plot the strain gauge data, we just need to somehow migrate the code from MATLAB to the App Designer. So let me just copy this part. Actually, I don't need to copy clear because the plot is always there. And I'll just go to the callback function and then paste everything here. Just to be nice, I would like to have the tabs in the same side. And then go back and copy the rest. Okay, so just to be nice, remember the ending end. Okay, so one thing you need to keep in mind is that we cannot plot as usual here because we need to tell the app designer where exactly to put the plot. So luckily, we can find that the plot window that we have here is called app.UI-axis. App is the app that you are designing here, and the UI axis is one of its small functions or components. So here, you need to add another line just to tell the plot function that you want to plot on UI axis. Then the same comes here. All right. So everything else should be the same. And when I start plotting, oh yeah, and to show you a dynamic feature of the plot, I'm going to delete the limits for the plot axis. Okay, so we will just save this code. I'm just going to call it demo application. And then we'll hit run. Okay. So in theory, as I click this button, the plot here will start acquiring data. This is jumping because the strain gauge doesn't have any strain on it yet. But now I'm just going to apply a lot of strain on it. And you can see that it is changing as I apply strain on the gauge. And it's being plotted in real time. As with the other MATLAB codes, you have a lot of freedom in designing your user interface. So for example, here, I have 4 plots. The left side, we have acquire strain, where I just get the data from the strain gauge in real time. Meanwhile, plotting the moving average with a window size of 10. On the right side, we have a database strain plot, where when I click acquire database, it will acquire the values that I already saved into the database, depending on which table that I want to use, and then simply plot it out, as well as plotting the average of the data. So the point is, you can use this graphical user interface to display your data, as well as perform some data analytics and show the results.